Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation. Silver, $3,621 per ounce. Let's explore. That's right. That's what the U.S. debt clock is saying right now. And that debt clock continues to tick on, and it's ticking up. And this is where it is right now. It should be of no surprise to us considering what's been happening in the world lately, and especially here in the United States, with the United States providing the largest liquidity injected into the economy of any other nation on earth by far. Fascinating indeed what we're seeing here. It is just incredible. Let's start with the U.S. national debt because that is something that is alarming. We are now at $26.1 trillion. That's right, and it is on its way to $27 trillion, and it is just continues to continue to climb at an alarming rate. And this leaves the debt per taxpayer at $210,577. This is astronomical. That's a house. That's one house for each of us, the average cost of a house. If you break that down per citizen, it's about $79,273. So these are everybody that doesn't pay taxes, but regardless, for everybody who has skin in the game, well, this is what you're paying. This is the debt that you're carrying. And imagine paying off an extra house in order to pay off that debt. Each and every single one of us that pay taxes, for sure. And if you take as another measure here, we look at the federal debt to GDP ratio, because we have to take into account inflation and everything that is tied to it. Well, in 1960, it was 52.77% debt to GDP. And in 1980, it was 34.60%. And in 2000, it had climbed up to 57.52%. But now it's more than double that. It's 131.07%. But these numbers are really meaningless when you think about it, in terms of what the national debate is these days. It's nothing about fiscal policy, monetary or otherwise, and what the Federal Reserve is doing. Yeah, they talk about the Federal Reserve only in ways to help inject money into the supply. Speaking of money supply, this is another factor too, because this is where we get that outrageous number per ounce of silver. And this is the U.S. M2 money supply now. Look at that grow. Absolutely astounding. And number just keeps going up. And we got U.S. trade deficits. We got all this stuff, the money creation that's going on now. And it is astronomical, especially when we look at the currency and credit derivatives now compared to the M2 money supply. So that leaves us to where we are at. These videos I do every once in a while, and to kind of gauge the paper or the dollar to silver ratio. And that's what this is about. This does not mean that silver is anywhere near $3,000 or even $100 per ounce. But what this tells us is to how many dollars are printed per ounce. If you look at here, this is the year over year increase in the U.S. M2 money supply divided by the yearly world production of silver. So in other words, they're not producing nearly as much silver as they are currency. And that's really no mistake. I think the very first video I did on this subject, I believe it was $844 per ounce. And now look where we're at. Way far beyond that. We're beyond the levels of any sustainability by any stretch of any imagination. I would argue at $844 an ounce, we were at that point. But nonetheless, they continue to pump out that currency, but they can't pump silver. The only ones that can pump silver are those of us in this community who maybe overemphasize its value. And I don't want to do that. This is not what this video is about. This video is about money creation or currency creation, when you think about it, into money supply, and how that is affecting compared to a commodity. Or if you want to, I think most silver critics would admit that silver is at the very least a commodity, and but it was a commodity that was utilized as money at one time, and as currency. And I still believe it is money, but regardless, you look at how much silver is produced a year on year, and compared to how many dollars are printed each year. And this year especially, there's been a lot of money printed. It is absolutely astounding. And so the numbers baffle us for sure. But this number, $3,621 bills, whether digitized or printed in the form of $100 bills or what have you, that is how many of those dollars per ounce of silver that comes out of the ground each year. And these are sourced from the Federal Reserve and the United States Geological Survey. And so that should tell you something. And I think this should encourage silver stackers out there that, yes, you are holding in your hands a metal that can only be produced by so much per year. And that means that it's more likely to maintain its value than the dollar bills will. The dollar bills, by its very design, considering that the Federal Reserve is involved, they are Federal Reserve notes after all. They are designed by measure to be at least 2% inflation. In other words, they're going to lose 2% of their value each year. That is the target that the Federal Reserve sets. They believe that a 2% inflation rate is considered healthy for the economy. And we feel that it's a different situation. That's not good. And of course, it's going to somehow, some way, it's going to have to burst open, and inflation is going to increase in what's known as hyperinflation, especially when all of these dollars start to make their way back to us. Most of the dollars that are being printed, I covered this in a prior video, are literally $100 bills, and or they are digitized in that format, another $100 formats. And so those are being sent to banks and institutions and to foreign nations. 60% of the world commerce is in dollars, and between nations and the like. And this is where we fall with a lot of the spending that's out there and a lot of the commerce that's done. And so a lot of those dollars have not made their way back here to the United States. I remember talking about this when quantitative easing 3 was well into effect, and people were wondering how long it's going to take for the world to lose faith in the dollar and those dollars start coming back to us, therefore increasing and diluting the money supply domestically, causing a hyperinflation status. That has not happened, and it's not likely to happen. So we could go on the way we are going for a while. They feel there's some sort of confidence in the Federal Reserve and the Board of Governors that they can continue to do this. Their concern is for the immediacy of the economy. Debt means nothing to any of them. And the Federal Reserve, politicians, and really to most Americans, it's but a number on a screen. This screen right here, usdebtclock.org, has it. $26.14 trillion. This doesn't mean a whole lot to people. It's an inconceivable number. But this number here, the 3,621 of those dollars that represent per ounce of silver mined out of the ground per year, that should mean something to you. Now, obviously, that depends on how much silver is produced per year. And with COVID-19 now on our doorstep here, more than likely less silver will be mined this year. And we may see an increase in physical demand, but not enough to warrant that much more production of silver, is my guess. And so we may have an off-kilter year in silver production, but when it's all said and done. Regardless, The debt clock continues, and I believe that this dollar amount will continue to climb even if silver increases. Because make no mistake, the amount of dollars that they can just digitize and just create out of thin air is nothing, is everything compared to the hard work it takes to mine an ounce of silver in the entire world. So there you go. It is fascinating indeed, and it gives us some perspective, especially when you think about what happened in 1913 in December of that year when the Federal Reserve Act was created. Well, you had $2.64 for every ounce of silver produced back then. Of course, a lot less silver was produced then, although that was when it was starting to ramp up. But our dollar was more under control. And it just goes to show you 1913 being the special year that it was is quite an amazing thing to think about when you think about how control we were with our dollar and what it represented back then. Because the vast majority of currency that was circulating was pocket change, and that pocket change was 90% silver. Let's step forward into the time machine 4 years to where the national debt will be $45 trillion. That's not out of the realm of possibility considering how fast it's growing nowadays. $45 trillion, that would mean per taxpayer $337,802. And there'll be more people around then for sure. And we will see a more than doubling of the dollar to silver ratio at that time. $8,309 per ounce of silver produced at that time. So there you have it. That's the future that we have to look forward to here in the United States, and what the dollar means, and really for around the world too, considering how the world depends on the dollar. And really, you think about it, is it hubris to think that we here in this country have that much faith in our currency, in our dollar bill, y'all, if that will continue to rise and that will continue to be the world top reserve currency? Or will there be some sort of love for this dulled metal here now? Here, it's tarnished, and right now in this particular case, not many people are loving silver right now. There's not much buzz and excitement about it because it's kind of languishing. Yes, it's up from where it was before, but is it really that undervalued? Who knows? You think about back when silver was money, silver was currency. And people don't see it as money these days. I do. I see it as a hibernating money. And but most of the silver that you see out there, well, it is utilized in collector coins and stacker bullion, such as you see here. But silver shines on. Just ask Kanye West when he had his little thing there. He was all decked out in silver paint and silver dresses there. So there you have it. Silver. It is what it is. It is a metal that will continue to be a force to be somewhat reckoned with. But its time may come. I think the U.S. debt clock is an example of that. But again, just to emphasize, it does not mean that silver is or should be anywhere near this amount per ounce. But I do believe that it could mean a revaluation of some sort or another in due course. So there you have it. Let me know your thoughts below. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch this video, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.